Well, hey, good morning. Welcome to the Blue Gamer Bluecast Morning Show. I'm your host, Adam Blue, where every morning, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Central, I'll start just rambling on about video games, video game news, what I've been playing, industry insights, all that fun stuff, because there's always video game stuff to talk about. Like today, we're going to talk about the games coming out this month of August, because, it's August 1st. And it's been crazy how I've kept up doing this show, and I love that I've been keeping it up. It's been so fun. This is my type of thing, to just talk video games, especially first thing in the morning. It kind of sets the day. But anyway, I'll talk about what I've been playing yesterday. Where do we want to start? Let me start with this. I wanted to show off this controller. It's the FlyDigi Apex 4. Now, this was actually sent to me by FlyDigi. I've always gushed about their Vader 3 Pro that I use a lot. Excuse me. This is like a budget version of this, and these controllers are just so good. And so I'm going to be doing a full review of this. Probably expect it by this weekend, and to kind of compare like the multiple offerings, because there is another version of this that's now out called the Vader 4 Pro that also might be sent to me for review, which would be great. But this is the one I'm focusing on now. There's a lot of cool little features. You can already see like the LEDs, the LCD screen. There's like a custom little, there's a lot of light there. Custom little thing there where it comes with extras where you can like etch in whatever you want to place there, because you can remove this front faceplate. It has a key on the side that you can use to then, there's these little things next to the analog stick. I don't know what you call it, but you can use that to kind of turn and affect the tension of the analog stick. So it's pretty interesting. Anyway, it also has a rubber back, feels really, really, really good. So I can't wait to do a deep dive into this for review. I'm thankful they were willing to send me. I reached out and said, hey, could you send me some stuff? Because I already buy a lot of their stuff. And to do a review of it. I'm super happy about that. Morning Ultronymous, Jamkill X, good to see you guys. I like the sleepy emoji with a drink. Could be a coffee. Because I know what you mean. Okay. Let's get into what I've been playing real quick. Let's show that off here. So I am still playing a whole lot of Metal Slug Awakening, and actually even this morning I did a little bit just to kind of wake myself up, and even yesterday I went back to SNK vs. Capcom, and mainly because I got that new controller and I had it itching to play some more. So I think I played through and beat it with either 2 or 3 characters yesterday. I'm now getting the hang of it to where it's not as difficult, and I think it's just the repetition again. But this light keeps going off for some reason. But I just love the SNK fighting games. And what's crazy is I'm playing this SNK versus Capcom game and Metal Slug Awakening, which are both SNK games. So it's like really everything's SNK heavy right now, which is interesting. And as a fan of action figures, there's even Metal Slug action figures that have been coming out, and I guess in the past year or so, and I haven't really focused too much on getting them, and I kind of want to, but it's just I'm not going to buy a figure for everything, It's fun stuff though. And then also Half-Life Alyx. Still some more of that. It is really fun. I mean, just the feeling like I am running around. I do have a gun. Just even like there are scenes where I'm coming up to a corner of a wall, holding the gun up, and then I'm looking around the corner. Like I am just so involved in the scenario that is occurring. And in Half-Life, they have the head crabs that look like spiders. So there are times where I'm looking around a corner and a head crab jumps at me, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And like, it is so fun to react that way. And then another thing on the Quest that doesn't show up here because it's not a game is this workout app called Supernatural. I've been doing it every day, and I can feel like I'm actually getting some good workouts in, and it's a lot of fun. There's that. And so I was thinking, like, what is the next VR game I might want to buy? Because I haven't really bought a VR game Half-Life Alex is actually just being shared from my brother's Steam account, the family sharing, and then, uh, let's see, what is the other one? So when I got the MetaQuest 3, it came with 2 years of Meta, um, game catalog thing. It's like Game Pass, or more like Xbox Live Gold was, because it will release a game for a limited time that you can keep in your collection. So I have a bunch of like those, but there's games like Sniper Elite VR, Bulletstorm. I'm gonna try some of that stuff. GMKLX is saying that there's an official Metal Slug Transformer-like tank. That sounds super familiar. I'm gonna have to look back into that. I need a little Metal Slug collectible. I have collectibles for so many different video game stuff. I used to have more and I sold it all, but I like to go back. And here's the other thing, though. Even though this is, man, my hair, I'm gonna try cutting it myself. Actually, I did that all through COVID, and it works fine. A little curl funny, but what's interesting is like I would get video game related collectibles or just collectibles in general through my life, sell them, buy new ones, and I always realize that there's better versions that come out eventually. So I'm not too worried about selling my stuff anymore. Yeah, let's move on. I want to get into the new games coming out in August, but I'm going to also look at some interesting news articles. So this to me seems super crazy, and I know layoffs have been happening, still are happening. That's just kind of the way it is, but it almost seems like okay, so let me just read this. Bungie CEO criticized for spending millions on classic cars as calls for leadership changes escalate. You also invited me to come see your new cars 2 days before you laid me off. Dang. Okay, so following news of yesterday's layoffs at Bungie, so apparently, do they get into the numbers? Let's see, and if not, I'll say them. Following the news of yesterday's layoffs at Bungie, CEO Pete Parsons has faced has faced criticized from staff. Yeah, that was supposed to be criticism from staff. What website is this? Eurogamer. Okay. Oh, maybe that's a British way to say things. From staff for spending millions on classic cars since the studio was purchased by Sony in 2022 and bragging about his lavish collection as the company headed towards this week's latest brutal round of job losses. That's when there seems to be this apparent disparity between people within the same collective. I mean, if you're working as a team and you have someone able to make so much money he could buy a bunch of cars, and then also people lay off, that's no different than the government we live in, where we have a top percent that has most of the money, and then you have the people below that are not being able to share that wealth. So it's like the problem. You can see how much the corporate nature of profits are just mirrored, or they're just integrated into how the government works, the economy works. As above, so below. Employees, some of whom are now unemployed, have shared links to an array of classic cars purchased via the Bring a Trailer website, with Parsons' profile public and listing a vast number of auction wins. The earliest was in September 2022, costing $34,000. Man, think of having so much money that you can just bid on auctions for cars and spend $30,000 here, $90,000 there, just a month before these latest layoffs. How exciting, wrote Parsons in a comment. I wanted to see one since I was a little kid, my second Hot Wheel ever. Going to it forever. And I got to say, like, I get it when you want to collect something and you love and you want to be able to buy it, and you can because you have your money. But uh, I think it's almost like the system itself is creating these people that would normally not do this. I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but let's move on. I guess it's like, what in that position would I be just and make sure I'm, at the time he's buying this stuff, maybe he didn't expect the layoffs to happen, and so it did, and it's like you can't really correlate a fault of his. It's a huge gap there. Parsons spent $79,000 on a vehicle in October 2023, just ahead of the previous layoffs, followed by 3 more purchases over the remainder of the year, including a Porsche costing over $200,000. In total, Parsons appears to have spent $2,400,000 on vehicles. And then you got to think of what company he's working for, what they've been doing and lacking in, and that's a lot of money. Just again, I feel like when you're in the top percent of video game publishing, those executives, those top percent, are it's not money laundering, but they're just making sure they get themselves fat paychecks. I mean, that's how it works in Hollywood. Sony purchased Bungie in 2022 for 3.6 billion, which seems insane. While it's unclear how much Parsons, and I thought it was insane the time they did it, and now we're seeing how it's turning out, and what the heck? While it's unclear how much Parsons has earned since the buyout, it would appear Bungie's senior leadership has not taken salary cuts, while over the past 9 months, almost a quarter of the workforce has been laid off. And I know a lot of people say, and look at Nintendo, their president took a pay cut instead of laying people off. But that's because the law in Japan is you can't lay people off just because you're not making money. You have to prove that their role is somehow redundant. So you can't just lay off people in Japan. So it's not that they're nicer, even though I don't want to take that away, but just the way business is done there, the corporatization of business in Japan is different. In a report from IGN last December following layoffs at Bungie, employees asked the department head during a post-layoffs Q&A if leadership would be taking salary cuts, to which the response was Bungie was not that type of company. Yeah, we could take cuts, but you know what? We like the money we're making. That's kind of how we operate here. That's what it sounds like. Parsons described yesterday's layoffs as some of the most difficult changes we've ever had to make as a studio in a blog post. And again, I don't want to like, I've been through the layoff game multiple times, but I also like it just looks bad to be spending 2 million of money on like whatever stuff like that has unrelated to the studio. So, and you would think then that 2,400,000 is just a percentage. It's like when I'm budgeting for action figures, there's only a couple hundred I'm gonna, if that, spend like maybe a month, and it's like I shouldn't go over that, and it's kind of crazy to think about in the first place because I've got all the other bills. But then you have this guy making enough money that he can spend millions on cars. It's like, what is he doing with his free time, like, or the time that he'd be working on the game? The response to layoffs has been mostly anger, and I get it, because that's the thing. I get layoffs; they do happen. It's like even with Bungie, Sony buying Bungie, it's like there's going to be layoffs. People prepare, but when like even the companies I've worked for that have done layoffs, it's never been like I've even been in companies that leadership has taken pay cuts or they stopped doing bonuses. So it's not like it's not possible. Like even with the unregulated nature of, how corporations work here in the US, companies can still make good decisions. So I've seen it in the IT industry. It could happen in the video game industry. And I guess the other part of this was, it was 220 roles at Bungie, which is a lot. It was going to be over 300, but they folded some of those employees into Sony, which makes sense. But I'm still trying to figure out how is Sony getting anything out of Bungie? I don't get it. Let's see. Let's look at chat. Jam Killuck saying, if you had the money already, that's one thing. But if he made the layoff and suddenly getting a fat bonus, that's sketchy. Yeah, you're right. Like like I was saying, it's like, well, if he was already making the money and buying this stuff, sure. But what then led to the layoffs? And at the same time, 2022, it would have been hard to guesstimate the layoffs happening. But I think what the issue is again what we saw during COVID, where these companies are working with these super slim margins. So as soon as something changes, you could prepare to like lose your job. Let's see. Hey mate, you stream pretty cool and nice. That's why I followed you up. I would like to be your friend and also a fan of yours. If you don't mind, kindly chat me on Discord. Well, that's very nice. Very nice. The water, from all accounts I've heard, was just that decent of a guy and made sure everyone got decently paid beyond the legal standards. Well, that's again, I'm not trying to take away that he wasn't nice, but they had to follow laws in Japan during all that, which we could be using that here in the U.S. And at the end of the day, that's the other part of this. It's like being able to lay off so many people. It almost speaks to how much the focus And again, these are big companies, so it is the focus is on the money and not the product. If you look at any company that like Nintendo that focuses on the product, the money just follows with it. And God, Bungie and Sony, I mean, even Sony's last big game was not even a Sony title. Like, it is so crazy to me especially because, Bungie did the whole Halo thing on Xbox. And then you get like, what, 20 years later, Sony's like, oh, we're going to buy Bungie. And then we're going to close them down. It's pretty insane. Let's see, anything else interesting from this? No, that's about it. It's just a weird situation. It's just highlighting while I think it's smart to be prepared for layoffs and kind of diversify your skill set, how you can help out in the economy. I know some people just want to live life taking it easy, and you can't anymore just work at Walmart and get a livable wage, which I think some people would be fine doing. Like there are just some people where they just like helping people that are doing their day to day, and you can't do that anymore. Like, I wonder how much if I could get a livable wage, I would just work at GameStop, for instance. That was never actually, I mean, there was one time that was an option. I think when I was really young, I applied. It was like FuncoLand or something. And then once I had already kind of gotten into the professional workspace, I was offered a job from a GameStop manager I knew because I talked to him all the time. And I was like, man, this is how much I'm making at this job. Can you match that? And he's like, no. And I'm like, but in my mind, it's like, man, I would rather do that. In fact, there was a guy at a local GameStop that I've known forever, that he's the manager, store manager. And you know what? I think he just positioned himself good from an early age. He's been managers at GameStop his whole life. And he was talking about how, his kids are already in college. So that's pretty interesting. Anyway, I guess that's to talk about the economy. Let's move on. Okay, I found this pretty interesting. Activision releases Call of Duty map in open source. So I don't know what that means, open source. Do they have like a map creator that this opens up in and you can do whatever? Yeah, I guess I could read it. Okay, it's a data set that you download, and it's supposed to have a lot of data points for the use of AI. Yeah, by launching the map, the company wants to empower developers and educators as well as help with AI training, which can lead to more intelligent systems, paving the way for next generation gaming and simulation technology. So it's pretty cool that this is happening. And I don't know the technical details, but just the fact that they're making a Call of Duty map like open source for whatever that means, it just kind of reminds me, this is now post Microsoft buyout. Not saying that Activision wasn't planning this before, but Microsoft is the type of company to do things like that, like with Forge, with Halo Forge. I don't have any other examples off the top of my head, but like little things like how they make it where the backwards compatibility, like they double down on that, even though that's like older stuff that you might already own. So are they making extra money? Not necessarily, but they always do these things to kind of connect more with gamers. It's very neat. Very neat. Here's something. Braid Anniversary Edition sold like dog shit. Developer Jonathan Blow says, it's so funny when they announced that they were going to have this Anniversary Edition, I was like, do we really need this? I mean, that was a neat game at the time, but I played it and at the end I was like, it was interesting. And I feel like that was a time where in general indie games were like fresher and it was like, oh, this is an interesting game. Where a lot of these indie games had sort of a meta layer to it where it was speaking on what it is and where it is. And I think that was the case with Braid. Yeah, when I saw there's an Anniversary Edition, I'm like, well, I'm not going to pick it up. I don't think I need to. And it sold really bad. And I think that's what the bottom line was when Braid came out. It was that like, wow, this is very interesting, but just not anymore, which happens with games sometimes. It's very interesting. Yeah, Braid enjoyed enormous success on Xbox Live Arcade in 2008. Yeah, I remember when that came out. That was such a big deal. Twist ending and everything. All right. Let's look at the biggest game releases of August 2024. I'm curious what you all will be playing or potentially playing. Throw it in the comments. Or maybe I need to keep doing that thing with the YouTube posts so I can collect everyone's responses and be able to read them online. But let's see, the end of the year is fast approaching, and as you'd expect, more high profile releases have begun to appear. The biggest release this month is easily Star Wars Outlaws, as Ubisoft takes a crack at the franchise after years of EA having a near monopoly on it. Again, another tragedy was that like whole era of Star Wars games. Oh my god. Star Wars Outlaws doesn't look like it'll deviate drastically from Ubisoft's established open world formula, but that familiarity is being enhanced by some incredible attention to detail. So I'm not gonna read all of this, but real quick with Star Wars Outlaws, another thing that I saw from these preview videos some people have put out there is how they are saying it does feel like The Division, and that was my number one thing. That just the gameplay of The Division, and I've even talked about this on this channel before. Even when last year I was doing less content, just Massive knows how to make good controls, and the way it felt playing Division 2, it was like, man, there's so many IPs that could use this, so I'm glad Star Wars is. Next up, like Souls-like fans can explore a world of Chinese mysticism, folklore, and black myth Wukong. I'm excited about that too. The only thing is lately when it comes to these sort of like myth-based fantasy Souls-like games, I start them up and I'm like, yeah, I've been here before, and then I move on. Although what I heard about Black Myth Wukong is it's not open world and it's linear, so that could be a good way to go through it. I don't really feel like spending my time. Same thing, yeah, with the Erd Tree expansion. It's like I load it up and I'm like, do I really feel like spending my time doing all this again? And by again, just like the feel. It's not like it's anything super new. So hope Black Myth Wukong just has a new feeling for me. Let's see. There's Thank Goodness You're Here. Squirrel has a gun. Hey, look, that squirrel has a gun. Is that the name of the game? Okay, let's just look. Thank Goodness You're Here. Cool art style. Probably not my type of game. It'll be on, and that's today on PC, PS5, PS4, and Switch. I hope it will say if anything happens to be Game Pass or not. Oh, Volgar the Viking 2. Huge fan of the first one. I think it was a Kickstarter, and I did the Kickstarter. That game is hard as F, and I never beat it, but I love the combat. I love it. Reminds me of Ghosts and Goblins, even though it takes from other, even directly from other old school 2D games like arcade games. Rastan, I think, is one. I just love the element of like you pick up pieces in the world that kind of build out your armor, but then as you get hit, you lose it and you're less powerful. It's a very neat dynamic. It's not that like you start getting hit, but then like maybe your attack is buffed. No, you just get weaker and weaker. Yeah, 11 years. It's crazy to think it's been that long. But that's August 6th, PS5, Xbox Series XS, but not Switch. And it's funny how sometimes I hear when it comes to the bigger companies porting to Xbox, it's hard, but the smaller companies porting to Switch is hard. That's interesting. SteamWorld Heist 2. Never played these games, but I know they're popular. That's August 8th on everything. A direct sequel to the 2016 game. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Kenna. Oh. Bridge of Spirits coming out August 15th on Xbox. I've played through half this game on not PS5. I think it was Epic Games on PC, because I think it was exclusive for a little bit. This game looks good and plays good, but it's almost like, and I think it's the case, it's almost like a special effects company making a game where everything about it looks and feels amazing, but there's something missing. You know, it's almost too gamey, like where it's like, go here, do this, go here, do that, but it looks beautiful. I don't know how to explain that emptiness that I'm talking about. Madden NFL 25, gonna pass on that. Black Myth Wukong, August 20th, PC, PS5, no Xbox, because I think, isn't there like where Sony has some sort of limited thing on that, or maybe not, I don't know. Tactical Breach Wizards, that's interesting. It looks like it's turn-based. So we'll see. Concord, August 23rd. Yeah, no. That's not gonna happen. Unless, like, it comes out and the reviews are awesome and people that I trust are saying, "Hey, you gotta play this." World of Warcraft, The War Within, I don't play World of Warcraft, so but it'd be neat if, like, that's on Game Pass. That's, like, the thing, right? If Microsoft pulls that off. And then Gundam Breaker 4, August 29th, the day before my birthday. I have this pre-ordered. I pre-ordered it, like, last year, was it? Oh, no, it was the beginning of this year, not last year. It was whenever they first had the pre-orders, going on. Um, yeah, and to be honest, I'm not super excited about this game, but because I'm a Gundam fan, this is something that I would play, and I'll probably put a lot of time in, just the experience of it. Squirrel with a Gun, another August 29th game. Most likely would not play this unless I hear things that say, "Hey, there's some really innovative and neat things going on here that will capture your attention." And not neat, innovative things where it's like a one time, like, "Oh, neat, it did that," but more of I want a system that's engaging. Visions of Mana, August 29th. Yeah, don't know. I don't normally, play JRPGs. Lately, JRPGs have infused real-time action into their combat systems, which is a way to get me to play them, because I'm not really into the turn-based stuff. Star Wars Outlaws, on my birthday, August 30th. I took the day off. I am going to be playing this game. And it's interesting because my expectations aren't, like, super high or anything. I think it's more of, like, I think Massive is a great developer. Um, Ubisoft, I think, is a good developer too. I think for some reason they get crap on them. So just the idea that they are making this open world Star Wars game. I also like the idea that it's sectioned off open world zones. I'm a fan of that. I feel like it's more focused. Less extra crap in space because it's like focused zone. So I'm looking forward to that. Oh, and then there's this whole schedule. Wow. So, oh, wait, hold on. Kill X just played the demo. Mana is back, baby. Okay, I might need to check out the demo. There's nothing wrong with checking out a demo. Thanks for telling me about that. So looking at this release schedule, there's actually a lot of stuff here, and I don't know. It always happens, kind of like with this SNK versus Capcom or SVC Chaos, where like randomly a game gets announced or comes out, and usually it's like a smaller title, but it's so fun, just like Metal Slug Awakening. I wonder if that's going to happen here. I would love that. But if I'm looking at what I'm seeing on here, I mean, Pepper Grinder looks interesting. Tomba Special Edition. That's actually pretty interesting. That's from an old school game. Yeah, looking at that Hunt Showdown, that's interesting because that's like a game that's been around for a while. Maybe just not the PS5 and Xbox Series X version, just PC, PS4, that sort of thing. But there's enough going on. And actually, it looks like it's giving. Yeah, oh, that's right. So Star Wars Bounty Hunter is out right now, but I'm gonna read reviews first to see if people say that, like, yeah, this is you could play it today and have a lot of fun. Because I played it before and I never beat it just because it was just okay, like on the GameCube, I think. So I don't know. But what I was getting at is I think from the beginning of the month, though, this still gives me time to try to beat SVC Chaos, get it. I don't think I'll ever beat Metal Slug Awakening, but see how far I can get into it. That game is huge. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, and so yeah, that's it for today. Just I think the interesting things we got out of this episode was just kind of understanding the games that are come out for the rest of the month, but also just talking about that whole Bungie situation. Like, I know layoffs happen, but it's just so crazy, like this money that's thrown around, even from the perspective of, well, what are these people spending their money on that are at exec levels that eventually people get laid off? And it's like, then you come out with games that are poor or games that get canceled. And it's like, I think regulation is okay for certain things. If regulation preserves the provided value that is the intention of starting a business in the first place, I'm for that, and I think the regulations can really be based around income and where money goes and all that stuff. It's very interesting. Anyway, that's all I have today. I guess I will talk to you guys again tomorrow. Later today, I'll have the Gundam Explained show. That's 4 p.m. Central. It's with Stephen and Midnight Hatter. And then always check us out Mondays, Free Speech Geek, with myself, Stephen, and Kyle, who runs the show. So I'm going to head to work, but I will talk to you all later. So see you.